Hello everyone, I hope that you are doing well. So without wasting any time, let's move to the newspaper. First we will identify the important news and then we'll move on to the analysis section. So this is Friday, April 1, 2022 in the Hindu newspaper, Delhi edition, right? We'll be identifying the most important news with respect to our examination. US Deputy NSA warns India of consequences. Look at the wordings, warns of consequences, fine. So this is an important news. AFSPA area under APSA, regime reduce, okay, we have to know what is APSA. Supreme Court strikes down TN 1 year quota, fine, we'll see this. Apart from that, there is nothing on page 1, nothing more on page 2, not on page 3. On page 4 there is an advertisement. On page 6 we have one important news: dip in Chilka Lake dolphin population, and it is related to Iravathi dolphin. We have to see because it is related to environment, okay. And apart from that, there is no news on page this. On editorial page, yes, there is a criminal attack on privacy. This is related to the criminal procedure identification bill 2022 that was there in the news 3 or 4 days ago, right? And this is a critical article of this is a critical editorial with respect to that bill, and we'll see what are the criticism it poses and is there any reason behind it. So we'll see to it. Fine. Cohesion cooperation related to Bpsc, okay, fine, we'll just give it a read. I don't think it will provide many important things for our examination, for our examination, but okay, we'll see to it. An opportunity to repolish India Nepal ties, we'll see what is there in this, because Nepal is our neighbor and we must know what our relationship is with our neighbor, right? And step by step, that is nothing. Now this page we don't have to worry about. Come to the text and context page. Okay, the rise of ruble amid Ukraine invasion, right? So how ruble has again risen after many sanctions amid this Ukraine invasion, right? We have to see what has actually happened, how it bounced back, okay. And then the demand for restoring old pension scheme, we'll see. It may help us to differentiate between old pension scheme and NPS. We'll give it a read. And this page is, I don't think, very relevant for our examination point of view. Now there is a news: unity of India will not bend to passing of winds of slogan. We can use this line, okay, to in our answer if needed. We'll see what it has, and obviously it is High Court, so we don't have to much worry about it, but the line can be used. Apart from that, Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary of Britain, was there yesterday in India, and she has given some interview. We won't be reading this interview because it is very clear. We will not tell India what to do on sanctions against Russia, because India is a sovereign country. They actually respect our sovereignty, right? But US is just giving us warning. They think that we are their slaves, okay, but we are not. They still have that colonial mindset that they are always right and everybody else is always wrong. And just Mr. Jaishankar sees a campaign against India. Yes, to some extent he is right that there is a campaign against India. You nations are still buying oil from Russia, and if India is buying that oil, then India becomes bad. Okay, we'll see to it, we'll discuss it. And apart from that, India prepared for climate refugee center till Lok Sabha. We'll give it a read. Not very that important. Maybe we can get some point here. Supreme Court goes faster on delivery of order. Now this is important for one day examinations. And apart from that, on this page there is 3 dead in West Bank. Now this is a very important geopolitical area with respect to UPSC. We have to see what had happened there. Sanctions, US has slammed some sanctions on Iran. We have to see. This will determine the future of JCPOA. Okay. And core sector output rise by 5.8%. Now we have to understand what is eight core sector, what are those, and low base effect. Okay, trade gap widens Q3 current account deficit to 23 billion. We have to see what is the value of CAD in India and all those things. External debt rose $11.5 billion to $614.9 billion at end of December. Fiscal deficit is there. So many technical terms are there. We have to see them one by one. Fine. And this is the sports page. There is nothing much relevant with respect to our exam here on 1st April. Fine. So with this we end today's identification of news, and we move towards the analysis of news. Okay. So in the first news, US Deputy NSA warns India of consequences. So wordings are very harsh. They are warning us, and of that too of consequences. Now let's read what he had to say, then I'll give my opinion. There will be consequences for any country including India. Now this person, Dalip Singh, actually, as the name suggests, he is of Indian origin, and in spite he is not understanding our concerns, right? I'll give my opinions on it, but let me first read it, because they tend to create a situation where it seems that always US is right and any other country that is not with US seems to be against them. There will be consequences, okay, for any country including India that conducts local currency transactions through Russia central bank or construct a payment that subverts the circumvents the United States sanctions against Russia. America Deputy NSA for India International Economics Dilip the Leap Singh said in New Delhi, fine, before the meeting of Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, fine. Now Lavrov is due to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Friday and is expected to brief them on the war in Ukraine, peace talk, keeping defense supplies running, and alternative payment mechanism in face of Western sanctions. So what are the agenda? The agenda is that briefing on Ukraine war, peace talks, defense supplies, Indian defense, what India is seeking, S-400 and AK-203 rifles at least in near future, and alternative payment mechanism. In the first for the US administration, Mr. Singh also publicly stated that India must not expect that Russia, as a junior partner of China, okay, not expect that Russia would assist India if there is more incursion along line of actual control. Who knows who will assist and who will not? At least America won't assist us, that we are sure. They have never done it in past, at least neither has Russia done. And in my opinion, wars are always won by one's action, not on dependent on other, else will become Sirajuddaula, or better I say Mir Zafar, right? I come here in the spirit of friendship to explain mechanism of our sanction, the importance of joining us. Look, the importance of joining us, look at the wordings, means that they are right. How can it be that you are always right? A 6 to 1 may appear 9 to other. To express a shared resolve and to advance shared interest. And yes, there are consequences to countries that actively attempt to circumvent or backfill the sanctions. Mr. Singh told journalists between his official meetings. Don't prop up ruble. We are very keen for all countries, especially our allies and partners, not to create mechanism that prop up the ruble and those that attempt to undermine the dollar-based financial system, he stated, replying a question from the Hindu. You understand this? This is simply he's saying that don't try to prop up the Russian economy by creating another mechanism instead of transaction in dollar, because once dollar is in transaction, they have US has the control over entire financial system of world. Okay, so what happens now if ruble is if trade in ruble is done with other mechanism, then they lose control over that ruble, that Russian currency or Russian economy. Okay, and in this way their sanctions fails. So they are saying that don't try to do this, means they are intimidating everyone who is not with them. Okay, bank officials meeting this week. Officials of Bank of Russia, the country's central bank, meet Russian Reserve Bank of Indian officials. Met the Reserve Bank of Indian officials to discuss alternative payment mechanism and routing through bank that are immune to international sanctions. Mr. Jaishankar told the parliament that a special interministerial group led by finance ministry has been tasked with resolving the payment issue, import and export with Russia caused by the sanctions. Asked how India ties with Russia could affect its partnership with US in Quad, Mr. Singh said that there was a shared recognition in the Quad that China is a strategic threat to a free, open and secure Indo-Pacific. Now this again is a very childish kind of stance, that you are creating a group against a country. Why are you making that country so great? That is not required. And as far as the relations with US is concerned, it's always business. It's with any country, the relation is concerned is based on, as I always say, only 3 things. The things are national security, national interest and peace and harmony, right? And peace and harmony, because this will lead to what? This will lead to increased trade. And with US, everything is business. They have been doing business in war. War is a big business for US. Okay, so and they are preaching us of not doing business during war. This is how it goes. They preach us the it is that they don't follow themselves. Okay, so my take on this news is just that we are sovereign enough to take our decision and nobody should warn us of consequences. Fine, we are a market. If we stop buying your things, you will be under great trouble. We are never under great trouble. We have a lot of options to buy from. You have a very less option to sell to. Fine, so don't make us do anything that you don't get it. And as far as the war is concerned, war per se is bad. That is of very bad consequences. But it seems that America wants more the war to continue rather than Russia. In the picture that is being present, that is coming out, is that Joe Biden needs the war to prolong rather than Russia. Okay, and let's move to the next news. Area under AFSPA regime reduced. Okay, so Armed Forces Special Protection Act, security situation has improved in the 3 states. Union Ministry considerably reduced the disturbed area under AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Power Act, in Assam, Manipur and Nagaland. Okay, so where it is there, Assam, Manipur and Nagaland, it has reduced. The order effective from April 1 would be applicable for 6 months. Is a result of reduction in area, is a result of improved security situation, fast track development and several agreements to end insurgency by PM. The ministry official said area under AFSPA has been considerably reduced in 3 states. It has not been completely removed. Look, it is a very good line to say that it has been considerably removed and not completely removed. The ministry constituted a committee on December 26 last to study AFSPA could be withdrawn from some areas of Nagaland after outage against the Bost army ambush that led to killing of 13 civilians at voting in Mon district on December 4. In the state Aspa was being removed from jurisdiction of 15 police station. Okay, these are some things that are not very needed. In Assam, Aspa was being removed completely from 23 district and one district would be covered partially under it. So this may be important, not for examination, but just know, just give a brief reading on Aspa, okay, AFSA, that will be more than enough for this news. SC strikes down TN 1 quota. Reservation was based on anti-quoted data. Fine, let's see. Supreme Court on Thursday confirmed that grant of 10.5% internal reservation to Vaniyakula Kshatriya community violates the fundamental right of equality, okay, non-discrimination and equal opportunity of 115 other most backward communities and denotified communities in Tamil Nadu. Bench of Justice L. Nageshwar Rao and B.R. Gavai held that 10.5% reservation to a single community from within a total of 20% in the state, leaving 9.5% for 115 other community was without substantial basis. The Special Reservation Act of 2021 enacted by AIDMK government in consultation with Tamil Nadu Backward Class Commission Chairperson Justice M. Tanik Chalam scooped 10.5% of MBC quota from Vaniyakula Kshatriya alone, citing their extreme backwardness. The top court upheld Madras High Court conclusion that quota for the community under the act was based on antiquated data. Fine. Now it is just saying that it has no substantial basis and data is antiquated, means very old, and equal law should be applied to all in same situation. Okay, this is the principle. Equals must be treated equally. This is the situation. This is the principle on which this is based, and there should be no discrimination between one person and another. Classification should never be arbitrary, artificial or evasive. So these three terms can be used: arbitrary, artificial and evasive. Now how we can use this? Governance should never be arbitrary, artificial or evasive. Now security should never be arbitrary, artificial or evasive. The reform should never be arbitrary, artificial or evasive. Okay, so in this way we can use it during the counter arguments. There is nothing on page 1 now. Let's move on to the other page. 2 is nothing there, 2 on 3 nothing, 4 nothing, 5 nothing. Let's come to the news of Irrawaddy Dolphin now. Okay. Dip in Chilika Lake dolphin population. Okay, however the overall dolphin in Odisha increased. So there has been a dip in where? Chilika Lake. You know where Chilika Lake is? It is a lagoon lake. Okay. Overall number of dolphins in Odisha has increased from 544 to 726. Fine. The dolphin population along Odisha coast and its water bodies has increased, but number of Irrawaddy dolphins in Chilika Lake has fallen. Irrawaddy dolphin don't have that big nose like dolphins. Okay, dolphins have a very big nose. Well, Irrawaddy dolphin don't have that. It has small snout. This is called snout. Okay, so it has a small snout, and apart from that, it is blind. It is not blind. Months after undertaking a census in different water bodies recorded across the state wildlife division, the number of dolphins which have overall gone up is okay. It has gone up. So, high sighting. The increase in state dolphin population is likely due to high sighting in mangrove wildlife division. Fine. Total of 6 species of dolphin: Irrawaddy dolphin, bottlenose, humpback, striped, finless, and spinner dolphins have been recorded. So, how many varieties of dolphin are there in Odisha? 6 varieties. Okay, in Odisha has been spotted. The lake, which is a major tourist attraction known for its Irrawaddy dolphin, saw a number of its flagship aquatic animal drop sharply. The drop was sharp from 162 to 151 this year. There has also been fall in number of bottle nose dolphin at Chilika from 26 to 16. The remaining 4 wildlife division dolphin sighting was negligible. The census for dolphin and other cetacean species include almost the entire coast of Odisha, where estimation has been carried out within the width of 1 kilometer from the sea beaches using line of transect census method at a distance of 500 meters from the beach. The subsequently recording of dolphin sighted on either side of the line transect was completed in all 48 census unit was established along the coastline. Okay, so it was done along coastline. Some details are there. You may remember it, but per se examination I don't feel it is very important. Okay, so let's move to the next page, and we come to this page. Is there anything? No, there is nothing. Now editorial as usual we do at last, and text, so is section context. Let's see the news here. Unity of India will not bend. Okay, to passing winds of slogan. HC grant bail to Kashmiri students who were arrested. Student traveling to different part of the country in quest of knowledge is true celebration of India diversity and vivid manifestation of India unity. Fine. So student traveling to different parts of the country in quest for knowledge is true celebration of India's diversity. Okay, so this can be used in diversity wala question in GS1 society section. Fine. So this can be used there. The unity in India is not made up of bamboo reeds which will bend to passing winds of empty slogan. Okay, said Allahabad High Court, and it has granted bail to students who were arrested in Agra for allegedly hailing the Pakistan cricket team victory over India in T20 cricket match. Posting a WhatsApp status praising Pakistani player after country defeated India in 2020 World Cup match. They has been in jail since October 27, 2021. Now this is not good. Matlab means for about 3 months here and 2 months, 5 months they have been in jail just for posting something. Okay, we'll see. The justice has said what? The foundation of our nation are more enduring. Eternal ideas that bind the indestructible unity of India. Constitutional value create an indissoluble unity of India. Every citizen of country is custodian and state is the centennial of unity of India and constitutional values of the nation. Okay, there is nothing much here in this. I just wanted to see what is it, that it can give us some fodder for our examination or not. That's it. Now let's move further. Now, as we have already done this, now Jaishankar sees a campaign against India. EU nations are still buying oil and they are targeting India. Fine. Criticizing what he called campaign against India for buying Russian oil at discount. In past few weeks, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has on Thursday said that European countries remain the biggest buyer of oil and gas from Russia despite an announcement that they would cut down. Now European countries has announced that they will cut down, still they are buying, and India, which do not even buy oils from Russia because of the high transportation cost, and India is being preached that you don't buy, means what? The one who are saying that we will post sanctions are buying, and one who don't even who has a very meager oil buying records from Russia is being targeted. Okay, speaking at event organized by this where he held discussions while visiting UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, Mr. Jaishankar said that it was natural for countries to go out in the market and look for good deals. It is very natural. Yes, he is correct. When oil prices go up, as they had since the war began in Ukraine and sanctions were placed on Russia, Mr. Truss responded that it would take European countries some time to end the dependence on cheap Russian energy. Okay, so it would take European countries some time to end the dependence on cheap Russian energy, but that Europe has already made drastic cut in their energy import plans from Russia. Look, energy import plans, they have not actually cut energy right now. They will be cutting in future step by step, and they are preaching India that what? That no, you should cut first because war is bad, and what they are doing, they are not cutting it. Sir, if you want something, go for it. Why are you preaching others that no, you should do this and you should not do that? If the European nations want no oil from Russia, then cut the oil supply, get it from America, get it from Saudis. On one hand, you want cheap Russian fuel. On the other hand, you say that we will not buy it from Russia, and so developing countries like India should not buy from Russia because we as a colonial master are not buying from Russia. You understand the mentality? They still think that we are their slaves, but in reality we are not their slaves. We are their client. We are a market, and the client is like the god. So we are god for them right now, and they must understand it. Once we don't stop buying things from them, they will understand what economic challenges Indian population can face. Fine. So let's move further on this page. About climate refugees. Now again, climate refugees has always been a big term. India prepared for climate refugees, Centre tell Lok Sabha. Opposition seeks strategy on tackling emission from coal. Mr. Yadav and RK Singh on Thursday parried questions from opposition member in Lok Sabha on how India plans to address emission from coal plants, whether it has a strategy in place to deal with climate refugees, saying that government has provisioned for this and was taking steps to source more energy from non-fossil fuel sources. Rising sea level as part of the discussion in Lok Sabha on climate change. Kanni Mozi of DMK and Saugata Rao of TC Trinamool Congress wanted to know if government was prepared to deal with influx of climate refugees. Why? Look, DMK active where? Active in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, means the South India, and Trinamool Congress active where? West Bengal. Both of them are coastal. Both of them has coast on one or the other sides, right? So climate refugees problem will be there. There will be influx of climate refugees there. Why? Because in Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh or say Kerala for that matter, we will have people from Sri Lanka, Maldives, and as far as the West Bengal is concerned, then people from Bangladesh, from Myanmar will have there. So there will be there can be an influx of climate refugees there, okay, away from the coast and their traditional habitations because of rising sea levels and soil erosion. Mr. Roy sought to know how the government proposed to deal with the coal plant and environmental pollution resulting from mining and burning of coal, given India's commitment at United Nations Conference of Parties to increase share of renewable energy. They wanted to know how India is going to deal with it. Now they have, the Minister for MOFCC has said, gave a detailed reply on several aspects of environmental pollution, the rationale governing India's position on climate change, and how the country is balancing economic growth and its consequence to environment. Okay, Western nations have a historical responsibility to address the greenhouse emissions they have emitted. We have a national adaptation fund and natural disaster resilience infrastructure fund to take care of potential climate refugees. Okay, so we have two fund, natural disaster resilience and other is national adaptation fund. New sources, Union Power Minister R.K. Singh has said that India has pledged at COP15 in Paris that by 2030, 30% of its energy needs will be from non-fossil fuel. We are already sourcing as on November 40% of our energy needed from non-fossil fuel sources and will push to 62% by 2030. International climate trackers have attested that we, the only major economy, those emission pathways consistent with keeping global temperatures below 2 degree rise. This context is important when discussing coal plant, and we are assuming the few countries that have raised our ambition, unlike many other countries, towards clean ambition. The minister said he was actually saying very good things about India, that we are on the track and we have done very good works here and there. But then the thing is, we don't have to keep the temperature below 2 degrees Celsius, but below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, SC goes faster on delivery of orders. We'll see. CGI launches new digital platform. Days of endless waiting to get hard copy of Supreme Court order is over. Now, all it takes for a court to do is a soft tap of send button and maybe a couple of blinks of eye, after which faster, an abbreviation for fast and secure transmission of electronic record, a digital platform formally launched by CGI. The platform would be used by the court officials to instantly send e-copies of order through secured electronic communication. What will we do? Instantly send e-copies of the order through secured electronic communication channel to intended parties. The CGI said faster would aid the cause of quick and effortless justice. So quick and effortless justice. So we get a keyword here. What kind of justice? It should be quick and effortless justice. Fine. Okay, the idea stemmed from a case reported in Hindu in July about several petitioners, prisoners in Agra jail forced to remain behind bars for 3 days after court granted them bail because the hard copies of the order has not reached the prison officials. Shocked by the brazen violation of fundamental right of personal liberty, life and dignity of the prisoners, CJI has suo motu taken cognizance of issue of delay in delivery of Supreme Court and asked whether court was still looking at the skies for pigeons to deliver our order in this era of modern technology. Fine, so this is a good comparison, that are we still in the era where pigeons were used to send information, or we are in the era of modern technology? And if we consider ourselves to be in the era of modern technology, then we must use it. It's as simple as that. Now, 3 dead in West Bank violence. Let's see. There's nothing to know here, just about West Bank. We have to see West Bank map. Let's see this image. Oh well, it is very small. West Bank on Israel map, I should have written. West Bank on is in Israel map. Yes, this is a good map. Look, where is West Bank? You can see. Here is West Bank. Fine. It is west of what? It is in east in Israel, but west of Jordan, and therefore it is known as West Bank of Jordan, or the West Bank now. Fine. Now let's move on to the next news. Iran slams new US sanctions. Iran on Thursday criticized US for imposing new sanctions on Islamic Republic, saying it would show American ill will towards people. Okay. The US Treasury announced on Wednesday the measure of targeting several entities it accused of involving in procuring supplies from Iran ballistic missile program. The move followed an Iranian missile attack on Erbil, Iraq on March 13 and attack by Houthi rebels. Fine. Core sector output rises 5.8%. And economists cite low base effect, output shrank 5.3% from January level. Okay, now let's see. India's core sector output grew at fast pace for 4 months with 6 of the 8. Okay, core sector registering growth. Crude oil and fertilizer production fell year on year respectively. Economists attributed February number largely to base effect, as output has contracted 3.3% in February. In fact, what is base effect? Base effect is nothing but now we are comparing this quantity with this quantity. Okay, and we are comparing this quantity with this quantity. Now whose percent will be larger? Here percentage will be larger percentage. Here the percentage will be smaller. Why? Example, let 2 be compared to 10. Then what is the percentage? 10 by 2. 10 by 2 means into 100, it means 500%. Okay, and if this is 4 and this is still 10, then what happens? 10 by 4 into 100 to 50%. You see, this is the base. If the base is small, the overall change looks large. This is what is called as the base effect. Now say the industry, say the cement industry. Okay, it initially in February last year, present. Okay, cement industry I am talking about. Say last year it has shown 5% growth, and this year it has shown 10% growth. Then what is the growth? The growth can be considered as 10 minus 5. 5 by 5 means 100% growth. Can we consider? Now say last year it has shown 10% growth, and this year also it has shown 10% growth. Then what is the growth? 1%. Okay, or 0%. Say not 10%, take it to be say 10%, and let this be 15%. So 15 minus 10 means 5 by 10 into 100, it would be what? 50%. Fine. So this is the impact of base effect. Okay, cement for instance grew by 5% compared to February 2021. Look, it is comparing to what? February 2021, but output was 4.4% lower than in January. Similarly, these things are there. So you understand what is base effect? It is a very easy concept. The smaller the base, okay, the larger the result. Long way to go. Economists are India rating and research case in observed that production of crude oil are still below pre-pandemic levels, and I don't think there are other important things. Now one thing we have to see, what are the 8 core industries? Okay, 8 core industries. Now let me make a guess first, and then I'll go there. What I think can be 8 core industries. This much space would be enough. Okay, let's see. What could be 8 core industries? The first one will be petroleum, natural gas, crude oil, cement, iron, steel. 5 we have done. Fertilizers, 6. Then 7 will be, then 2 more are remaining. Petroleum, natural gas, petroleum and petro products, natural gas, cement, iron, steel, crude oil, fertilizers, refinery we have done, steel production we have seen, cement we have seen. So 2 more are remaining. Let's see. Coal, yes, coal, and one is coal, yes, I forgot that, coal, and last one is, let's see on Earthopedia, steel, electricity. Okay, coal, crude, natural gas, refinery, fertilizer, steel, cement, electricity. So important one, electricity. Fine. So what are the 8 core industries? Refinery, natural gas, cement, then we have coal, iron and steel, fertilizer, electricity, and crude oil. Okay, so we are done with this. Now let's move to the other. Trade gap widens. Q3 current account deficit to 23 billion. Current account deficit sharply, okay, widened sharply to 23 billion or 2.7% of GDP in quarter. Why it is in quarter? So we don't have to mug up these data. We just have to know what is CAD, right? The widening of CAD in Q3 is mainly on account of higher trade deficit. Obviously, current account deficit in India is mainly due to trade deficit only. Now just give it a read. What is CAD? Current account deficit from your balance of payment. That would be enough. Fiscal deficit means borrowings. Okay, reached 82.7% of the target in February. So what we have targeted, of that 82.7% has already been reached. External debt rose to 11.5 billion. rose 11.5 billion to 614, 615 billion at end of December. Commercial borrowings are the largest part. Fine. Give a read to this only. What are the debt? Debt are of two type. Public debt, I mean internal debt, external debt. Okay. Internal debt, external debt. External debt has commercial borrowings, short-term loans, and all those things. Private banks, we take it from private bank, all those things. Give it a read. This is very easy. This would be very easy. I don't think there is much news, anything left on this page. Okay, now we move on to sports. Nothing was there on sports, I remember. So now we move on to the editorial analysis. So this is the editorial. This is a criminal attack on privacy. We'll give it a read and see what we can drive home from here. The Criminal Procedure Identification Bill 2022 erodes the privacy of those convicted of crime and ordinary citizens. So what it is doing, it is eroding the privacy of convicted people and ordinary citizen both. How? Let's see how authors have argued in their favor. Union Minister of State and Home Affairs Ajay Mishra Teni on Monday introduced Criminal Procedure Identification Bill 2022. The bill was neither put up for pre-legislative consultation nor indicated in the session legislative agenda of the Parliament. So the bill was neither put up for pre-legislative consultation nor indicated in session legislative agenda in Parliament. Seemingly technical, it is a legislative proposal that undermines the privacy of not only person convicted of crime but also every ordinary citizen. It is proposed to replacing a law that is over 100 years old. Okay, so they say that this will not only undermine the privacy of convicted people but also of each and every citizen of India, because it proposes to replace a law that is over 100-year old and which has stood the test of time. Fine. What needs scrutiny? Let us first understand why it is being introduced, and why it is being introduced means background, on what background it is being introduced, and what is it tends to achieve means aim. So what are the background and what are the aims, they will explain here. The bill aims to replace Identification of Prisoners Act 1920. Okay, it aims to do what? It aims to replace, not amend. That has been in need of amendment for several decades. Back in 1980, the Law Commission of India in 87th report and Supreme Court of India in judgment titled State of UP versus Ram Babu Mishra has nearly simultaneously suggested the need to amend the statute. The criticism and the need to amendment was predominantly in respect of limited definition of measurements. Okay, so what was the fact, or what was the sphere of amendment that was needed? Limited definition of measurement as under the Act. It seems that it is one of the primary issue that proposed legislation is designed to resolve. So limitation of definition of measurement, which was the issue, now the proposed bill seems to do what? The proposed bill seems to deal with this issue. Okay, in this regard it might be unexceptional, being an expression of long held views with legal establishment. However, the devil is in the details. With 3 expansions in the power of the state surveillance in name of criminal reforms, what it is saying? Details. With 3 expansion, how many expansion? 3 expansion in power of the state surveillance. So what, in which capacity there are 3 expansion? In power of state for surveillance. And what is the pretext or context given for that? Criminal reforms. The merit that merits further scrutiny. Now on these 3 parameters, on these 3 gauges, which tends to increase the power of state to surveillance its people on the name of criminal reforms, needs more scrutiny. Okay, the first, what is the first of those 3 expansions? The first, the definition of measurement is not restricted to taking measurements, okay, but also their analysis. When the definition now states iris and retina scan physical biological sample and their analysis, behavioral attributes including signature, this definition is nebulous and vague. So the definition itself is vague, and when a thing is vague, it has the potential of what? It has the potential of interpretations differently by different people, which leads to conflict. It goes beyond the scope of law, which is only designed for taking measurement, and could result in indirectly conferring legislative backing for techniques which may involve in collection of data from other sources. Now it would give what? Now if such thing is analysis is included. Now initially what used to happen? Only measurements was allowed so that the identification becomes easy. Now the core of the the core of the legislation was what? That identification is easy and reliable. Here also the core is that only identification is real and reliable, easy and reliable. But this analysis section, as per the author, makes this definition very vague, and hence it is open to interpretations which will lead to conflicts. It goes beyond the scope of law, which only designates for taking measurement. So law says what? Only take measurement, and could result in indirectly conferring legislature backing for techniques which may involve collection of data from other sources. Now, such a profiling of the prisoners, the convicts, will lead to what? Will lead to collection of data from other sources as well. Why? Because every source now today is interconnected to one another. They have given an example. For instance, using facial recognition technology, where measurement of person are as under this law is compared with sample taken from general public. What it is saying? Where measurements of persons, for instance, using facial recognition technology, where measurements of persons are under this law are compared with samples taken from general public. Okay, then what they can do, if they have the facial recognition of one person, they can compare it to other person of the general public and get maybe replace that samples from replace that facial sample from a similar looking person, not exactly same but similar looking person. It can be used to evade laws. At present, there are extensive facial recognition technology programs for smart policing that are deployed all across the country. For instance, Delhi police uses facial recognition technology originally acquired for identification of missing children in 2018 to also screen habitual offenders. Similarly, Tamil Nadu deploy this technology, which are integrated with the state and national level database including CCTV footage. Such experimental technologies cause mass surveillance. What it does? It leads to mass surveillance and are prone to bias, impacting the fundamental right of the most vulnerable in India. Now, if there is mass surveillance, then we know, then the people having control of this mass surveillance has more ideas about the need of the people, about the behavior of the people, about the habits of the people, and that could be used for tweaking the maybe the election results, maybe for evasion of funds, maybe for planning of elections and all those things. Fine. Planning of any other thing. Fine. Data captured and choices. The second area of expansion of surveillance concerns from whom such measurements can be gathered. Okay, so these measurements, whose definition is still vague, will be gathered from which person? The existing law permits data captured by police and prisons officers either from person convicted or person arrested for commission of the offences punishable with minimum 1 year of imprisonment. So minimum 1 year of imprisonment. Parallel powers are granted to judges who can order any person to give measurements where it is in aid of investigation, while the judicial power is left undisturbed. It is the power of the police and the prison officers that are being widened. Okay, the power of the police and prison officers are being widened. The law removes the existing albeit minimum, that is limitation, that is minimum should be taken on person where the measurements could be taken. It is poised to be expanded to all persons who are placed under arrest in this case. This is truly breathtaking spectrum, including petty crimes such as violating a prohibitory order of not wearing mask, jaywalking, or a traffic violation. Means for a small crime also this data collection would be taking place, leading to more state surveillance. Here the proposed bill also contain muddied language, again vague language, stating that a person may not be obliged to follow orders of his, obliged to allow taking of his biological samples. Okay, this is on its surface. This on its surface offers a choice to person refuse. However, the words may not be obliged may also be read to offer discretion onto a police officer to confer such a choice. Fine. In any instance, the exercise of such choice is presumed in law, which may not be truly voluntary given absence of wider accountability reforms in which existing policing practices are coercive. Even if these objections are disregarded, the choice, if any, is limited only to biological samples. Okay, the choice is limited to what? Biological samples only from wider data point captured within that what constitutes measurements. For instance, iris and retina scan is mentioned separately to biological samples, and hence a person arrested under any crime or preventive detention law, if desired by the police, will be required to scan their eyes. So it is saying that the definition of biological samples only, and for collection of biological samples only, there is this element of choice is there, right? But iris and retina scan are written separately from biological samples, which means that if police wants or if the authorities want, they can easily scan the eyes. It is by the definition, it is not considered a biological sample. Storage of data. The third area of concern is the storage of data. NCRB shall store the data for a period of 75 years from the date of collection and maintain digital record in interest of prevention, detention, and investigation and prosecution of any offence. As pointed out by Professor on Twitter, how will these records be used for preventing crime except through surveillance. Okay, so we do not understand that how the NCRB data can be used to prevent crime. Look at the wording, prevent crime, how it would create enough deterrences that crime itself would not be committed. So from this data we can do only what? The government can only make large scale surveillance. It cannot prevent crimes because this thing is not creating enough deterrence for habitual criminals or first time criminals to refrain from crime. Okay, this becomes clear when the provision permits the NCRB to share and disseminate such record with any law enforcement agency in such a manner as may be prescribed. It is important to consider that NCRB already operates a CCTNS without any clear legislative framework. The interactions between the proposed law and CCTNS is not clearly defined, though likely given the powers conferred under for the digital records go for the same government department. Okay, fine. The existence of such legislative powers with a technical framework may permit multiple mirror copies and parallel database of measurement. Now, parallel database of measurement, yes, this is a problem. Being stored within the law enforcement beyond a state police department which will be prosecuting the crime, and NCRB will store all the records centrally. For instance, in response to Standing Committee of Parliament on Police Modernization, Rajasthan has stated that it maintains a Rajcop application that integrates with analytics capability in real time with multiple data sources. Similarly, Punjab has said that PIES app used machine learning, deep learning for etc. For identification of criminals to assist police personnel. This app helps in storing carrying information about criminals. Hence, the multiple copies of measurements will be used by state government policing department for various purposes with experimental technology. This will also take away the illusionary benefits of deletion which occurs on acquittal and will suffer from weak enforcement due to absence of data protection law. In sum, once a person entered measurement within the system, they stay there for life, given the average life expectancy of India which hovers around 70 years and is less than retention period. Okay, so once the data fed into the system will be always there until the person is alive. Why? Because average life expectancy in India is about 70 years and the data will be stored for 75 years. Now if the offense happens at say very minimal age of 10-12 years, then also they will be almost for the lifetime. And the end result is a sprawling database in which innocent persons are treated as persons of interest for most of their natural lives. Okay, while the impact on person with privilege may be minimal, the masses, many of whom lack socio-economic power in Indian society, may face harsher law enforcement. This becomes clear from primary research based on settled habits, new tricks from the Criminal Justice and Police Accountability Project. They pointed out to the caste bias against Pradhi Adivasi community, which was once time designated as criminal tribe. In this context, they state, in reality, since these databases are fed by police censuring long caste-based system of preventive surveillance and predictive policing. Okay, there is no possibility of objectivity or lack of caste bias. The CCTNS only adds technological veneer to the caste-based policing model. It is foreseeable that if model proposed ambit of measurement is expanded and then put into database, it will likely also target the Pradhis. Onus is on government. Injuries to privacy are not mere academic database and causes real physical and mental consequences for people. To protect individual autonomy and to fulfill our constitutional promises, the Supreme Court of India pronounced the Justice K.S. Puttaswamy judgment reaffirming its status as a fundamental right. The responsibility to protect it falls to each organ of the government, including legislature and the union executive. For India to fulfill its claim of being constitutional democracy rather than mere electoral democracy, it will have to do better rather than regressing even from identification of personal act passed by the colonial regimes. So this is an ending. So to become a true constitutional democracy, we need to move ahead of mere electoral democracy, and we should try to implement the spirit of constitutionalism from heart and soul. Okay, cohesion, cooperation, BIMSTEC. It is related to BIMSTEC. The adoption of charter of 5th BIMSTEC summit promises re-energized 25-year-old grouping. These things are there. Security pillar. India decided to lead the security pillar out of the 7 designated pillars of BIMSTEC. Has given India regional aspiration and new orientation away from stalemate SARC that has been unable to meet since November 2014. The opportunity is also accompanied by its own set of problems. The inherent challenges were reflected in time taken to finalize the charter. One of the key factors of Rohingya crisis that has weakened the bilateral Myanmar-Bangladesh ties with Dhaka, seeing full repatriation of refugees, and Naypyidaw disinclined to respond positively to international plea. Unlike SARC, which is burdened by India's Pakistan hostility, BIMSTEC is relatively free of sharp bilateral disagreement and promises to provide India with a cooperative sphere of its own. Given the complexity of domestic and geopolitical factors, this sphere will require sustained bilateral and group level discussions to prevent problems such as Rohingya crisis and all those things. Engagement with partners such as Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh to prevent any domestic political spillover affecting from bilateral grouping and testing. With his call for Bimstec FTA, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has outlined India's vision to bolster trade connectivity in the grouping. Okay, we have to bolster trade connectivity in the grouping, and FTA spanning maritime resource-rich members such as Myanmar and Sri Lanka could bring dramatic gains for all members. A coastal shipping ecosystem for interconnected electricity grid, in addition to adopted master plan for transport connectivity, have the potential to boost inter-regional trade and economic ties. Having walked away from mega trade blocks and these things, the security and trade related lessons from troubled SAARC and SAFTA also serve to Bimstec well in the long run. Ultimately, though for the revived grouping to realize its trade and economic potential, India will have to take leadership role in assuaging any apprehension among the smaller members of the intergroup power imbalances and strive to facilitate greater cross-border connectivity and flow of investment by lowering barriers to the movement of goods. So India should act like a big brother, but not interfere like a not interfere in this regional matter. They should concentrate on the seven pillars of Bimstec. Okay, and in this way, it could lead to a better regional trade, regional security, and all those things. Okay, India-Nepal relations. Let's see the visit of Nepal Prime Minister Sriramias to India beginning April 1, 4 years after Nepali leader visited Delhi is significant. Okay, assume office in July 2021. The Nepal Parliament has been dysfunctional since July 2020 after crack with the former Communist alliance developed in 2019. Novel corona pandemic has been face saving event for political forces. So pandemic has led to face saving for them. Nepal relation with India that plummeted to a historical low after Indian blockade in September 2015 have not yet recovered, as Nepali do not see relations with India improving anytime soon. India refused to accept demonetized bill with the Nepal Rashtra Bank worth INR 7 crores, and the unknown fate of reports submitted by the EPG have not helped in securing better image in Nepal. The fact that passengers boarding flight from Nepal to India is still subjected to pre-boarding security check even over 20 years after hijack of an Indian airline aircraft determines the perception of trust of India in Nepal. Passengers boarding flight from Nepal to India are still being subjected to pre-boarding security check even over 20 years after hijack of an Indian airline aircraft determines the perception of trust of India in Nepal. Means, so there are boarding security checks. What is the problem? Nepal to India is still subjected to pre-boarding security checks. Yes, there are even over 20 years after hijack of an Indian airline aircraft of trust of India in Nepal. Okay, this is despite thousands of Nepalis serving in Indian army and Nepali village expressing grief whenever violence escalates in India, as many lost their lives defending countries that is not their own. Geopolitics is a complicated challenge for Nepal, whose geography requires it to make best use of its position between India and China. The last couple of months are an example of how complicated it can get. With Nepalese parliament ratified a US $500 million grant assistance Millennium Challenge Corporation Pact, there were still protests, big time social media campaign supported by China. However, India silence and the offer of other routes for power transmission as alternative to MCC confused everyone. Was India for or against the MCC grant to Nepal? With the relation between India and United States further complicated by China factor in India abstaining the Russia vote in UN, even as Nepal voted in favor of it, the problems have committed to mount. Recent visit of Chinese foreign minister to Nepal has resulted in situation that everyone in Nepal is trying to decipher. Analysts also suggest that Mr. Wang did not assure his Indian counterpart that Nepal should work out its internal equation with India and China would stay out. But in reality, Chinese engagement has been very deep, as seen in anti-MCC campaign. US grant and investment activities are seeing a revival post MCC ratification, and India does not want to see other powers active in Nepal. With Mr. Deva leading the fragile coalition, and there are not many issues he may want to accomplish, but he should be able to push some key pending ones. The main priority, the power trade agreement needs such that India can build trust in Nepal. Despite more renewable energy project coming up in India, hydropower is one of only source that can manage peak demand in India. For Indian Buying power from Nepal would mean managing peak demand and also saving billions of dollars of investment, which would have to be invested in building new power plant, many of which would cause pollution. Second, while trade and transit agreement go through the usual extensions, it is time to undertake complete rethink as sales of good payment moves through electronic payment. This can provide many opportunities for business on both sides of the border. Third, the bilateral investment promotion policy and promotion protection agreement BIPPA signed between India and Nepal needs more attention from Nepali side. Okay. So BIPPA needs more attention from Nepalese side. A commitment from Mr. Devua on implementing this would attract more foreign investment from Indian investors. The private sector in Nepal, especially the cartels in the grab of trade associations, are fighting tooth and nail against foreign investments. So it will be important for Mr. Devua to deliver a message that Nepal welcomes India's investment and that he is willing to fight the domestic cartels, knowing well that it may dent a bit of funding to his party for election. So what the last paragraph is saying that for bilateral investment not coming in due to the local conditions where the foreign investment is not welcomed, right? Mr. Deva should deliver a message that Nepal will welcome such Indian investment. This will lead to more investments from India. Finally, what it is written, a new Nepal. Now finally it is for Mr. Devua to provide the confidence that Nepal is keen to work with India, while at the same time making it clear that it cannot take on India's pressure to ignore China or US. In context of Nepali currently living in 180 country, India must note that it is a new Nepal that it has to deal with from now. Perhaps there is a hope that situation can improve in appointment of Dr. Shankar Sharma, a seasoned economist who was also Nepal's ambassador to US. As Nepal's ambassador to India, he was responsible for recalibrating Nepal's relation with US. Perhaps we can hope that India will engage with him more deeply without usual condescending attitude. Perhaps an open movement has arrived. Okay, this is a very positive and pragmatic article. Let's see how the news unfolds. It is a prelude to the visiting of Nepalese Prime Minister to India. Okay, now let's see. There were two more news probably on the text and context page. The rise of ruble amid Ukraine invasion. The ruble has recovered almost all of its losses. I'm reading the gist. Okay. Incurred following Ukraine invasion and has surprised many people who had predicted that it would fall further. The Russian central bank was able to achieve this through capital controls. How achieve this? Through capital controls that aim to increase the demand for rubles and reduce the demands for dollar. So this is some kind of mechanism called capital control. We'll see how. Though the ruble is recovering, the Russian economy is still poorer due to exit of foreign business and boycotted by the West. Okay. Now let's see the story so far. The Russian ruble has staged an impressive recovery and all those things. What kind of sanctions were imposed? Sanctions were imposed on Russian economy by Western government right after the invasion. These sanctions included cutting off many Russian banks from SWIFT and also freezing Russian central bank foreign reserves held abroad. Many Western companies, including oil majors such as British Petroleum and Shell, pulled out of it. Sanctions basically made it harder for Russian business to sell their goods abroad and also make it harder for ordinary Russians to purchase goods from abroad. The freezing of Bank of Russia Forex reserve held abroad also made it harder for Russian central bank to use its foreign reserve to prop up the value of Russian currency. Okay, so Russian central bank would not put in its foreign reserve to prop up its currency. Naturally, the ruble experienced a sharp hit right after the sanctions, leading to many believe that Russian economy has been brought to his knees. Surprisingly, however, Russian currency has staged a remarkable recovery in last 3 weeks. It took almost 81 rubles to purchase a US dollar one day before Russian forces invaded Ukraine on February 24. A couple of weeks later, it took $151 rubles to purchase a dollar, making its ruble slow since beginning of the war. This week, thanks to significant rally from lows of early March, it took about 83. Okay, so from 81 to 83. Okay. So now we see that Russia has recovered a lot after the loss that it had incurred after the aftermath of war. What is driving the ruble sharp recovery? It should be first noted that price or exchange value of currency is determined by supply and demands of that currency. Fine. So exchange value is market based and it is based on supply and demand. When Western government imposed sanction, it made it harder for dollars to flow into Russia. Okay, either it from investment or by purchase of Russian goods. Sanctions on Russian central bank also made it sure that Bank of Russia could not flood money in currency market with US dollar to prop up the value of ruble. The demand for foreign goods and assets, however, remained stable. When combined with the drop in inflow of dollar, it caused the value of ruble to fall very quickly in the initial week of war and ensuring economic sanctions. The Russian central bank, it seems, was able to counter this negative trend in its forex market that has caused the ruble values to plunge against dollar. It managed to do this primarily through capital control that aim to increase the demand for rubles and reduce the demand for dollar. For example, the Bank of Russia ordered Russian energy exporters who still has access to US dollar thanks to the exception in Western sanctions. Thanks to the exception in Western sanctions. Look at this. They are sanctioning everything except energy because they required energy. If India required energy, they will preach us that no, war is there, you are doing it wrong. But when they require energy, they will create an exception. This is how the world goes. It is always, whenever you read international relations, read it in three aspects: national interest, national security, and peace and harmony. And peace and harmony comes last. National interest and national securities and peace and harmony, right? National security will relate to energy security, food security, and all those things. And national security is very intrinsically linked to national interest. Fine. Export to use 80% of their forex holdings to purchase ruble. It has now ordered Russian brokers not to allow foreigners to sell their assets in Russia. This is to prevent outflow of capital, which would rather depreciate the ruble as investors sell their rubles to purchase dollar. What happens? What has Russia done? Look, energy brokers had access to dollar. Russia asked them to pump it into the system by purchasing rubles, and it has restricted the outflow of capital also by not allowing foreigners to sell their asset in Russia. So if they don't sell their asset in Russia, they will bring in dollars there. Okay. The Russian central bank decision to raise its benchmark interest rate to 20% could have also helped to draw some foreign investment that propped up the exchange value in the ruble. Now 20%, it is giving 20% returns. So it is obvious that some or the other investor will pump in dollar to the system. Lastly, peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have also perhaps helped in ruble recovery to some extent by raising hopes of return of economic normalcy. So peace talks have also led to the recovery. Some analysts, however, see the bounce back of ruble as temporary rally in what could be a far deeper correction over long term. So some also believe that this is just a temporary shock kind of thing, and it will follow the same downward trend in longer term. What lies ahead? The remarkable recovery of ruble should not be taken as a sign of Russian economy's hale and hearty. The capital controls imposed by Russian central bank, including the use of dollar earned by selling Russia's huge energy reserves to prop up the ruble, may help in shoring up the ruble, but despite the ruble may be temporary. Okay, it should also be noted that capital controls affect the free flow of capital and could have seriously implications for Russia's future economic growth, since investors are generally wary of investing in economies that do not allow free exit of capital. Fine. So investors are not very keen to invest in an economy that do not allow free exit of capital. It should be also remember that Russian economy is poorer due to exit of foreign business and boycott of Russian economy by the West. Further, there are limits to how long Russian state can prop up the value of ruble against US dollar, even with help of various capital control. The significant drop in crude oil prices or European boycott of Russian energy, for instance, could significantly reduce the inflow of dollars into Russia and thus ability of Russian central bank to prop up the ruble. So this reserves with the energy brokers is limited, and so propping up again ruble by this will also remain limited, and in long run it is expected that Russian currency ruble will fall against dollar. Okay, now let's see this article. The demand for restoring old pension scheme. How will the NPS benefit employee? What are the changes introduced in the scheme? Fine. The old pension scheme ensured a lifelong income post-retirement. This assured amount equivalent to 50% of last drawn salary. Atal Bihari Vajpayee discontinued the old pension scheme in 2003 and introduced NPS. The scheme is applicable to all recruits joining central government services from 1 April 2004. The Pension Fund Regulatory Development Authority is a regulator for NPS. PFRDA was set up through PFRDA Act in 2013. Let's see what is there. Story has been on February 23. Rajasthan Chief Minister Gehlot announced restoration of old pension scheme for government employees who joined the service after 2004. The announcement meant that NPS would be discontinued from the state. Following this, another Congress-ruled state, Chhattisgarh, announced the restoration of defined pension benefit scheme. In recently concluded Uttar Pradesh Assembly election, Samajwadi Party Akhilesh Yadav has announced the restoration of old pension scheme, drawing the support of several government teachers and employees in this process. The BJP has maintained that restoration of old system would cause unnecessary financial burden on the government. The demand has restored in other parts of the country, has resonated in other parts of the country. Last week, protests were organized in JNK, Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, and Madhya Pradesh. Trade unions across the country organized a 2-day strike on March 28 and 29, demanding scrapping of old pension scheme. The Finance Ministry has earlier. So this is the main background. This is the immediate background. Trade unions and 2 days strike on 28th and 29th have demanded scrapping of old pension scheme. One thing is here, and the main background was what? Rajasthan announced the restoration of old pension scheme. Okay, so these two things are there. The background. Ministers earlier ruled out the proposal by a federation of central and state government employees, saying that changes will be financially untenable. Okay, what the government says, that such changes will be financially untenable. Financially, it may not be properly financially good to do such thing again. What is old pension scheme? The scheme assures lifelong income. Usually the assured amount is equivalent to 50% of the last drawn salary. The government bears the expenditure incurred on the pension. The scheme was discontinued in 2004. What is NPS? The BJP Union government under Prime Minister Vajpayee took a decision in 2003 to discontinue old pension scheme and introduce NPS. The scheme is applicable to all new recruits to central government services except the armed forces from April 1, 2004. On introduction of NPS, the Central Civil Services pension rules was amended. Okay, so the Central Civil Services pension rule was also amended. It is a scheme where employees contribute to their pension corpus from their salary with matching contribution from the government. The funds are invested in earmarked investment schemes through pension fund manager. At retirement, they can withdraw 60% of the corpus, which is tax free, and remaining 40% invested in annuities, which is tax. It can have two components, Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tier 2 is voluntary saving account that offers flexibility in term of withdrawal, and one can withdraw at any point of the time, unlike Tier 1 account. Private individuals can opt for this scheme. Okay, private individuals can opt for this scheme. What were the changes introduced in 2019? Finance Ministry said that central government employees have options of selecting PFs, pension funds, and investment patterns on their Tier 1 account. The default pension fund managers are LIC Pension Fund Limited, SBI Pension Fund Private Limited, and UTI Retirement Solutions Limited in predefined proportion. What is regulatory authority? What is the regulatory authority to manage the fund of government employees that are linked to market? PFRDA is the regulator for NPS. PFRDA was set up through PFRDA Act in 2013 to promote all old age income security by developing pension fund to protect the interest of subscriber to the scheme of the pension fund. What is the subscriber base? It is about 23 lakhs, 22.74 lakhs central government employees and 55.44 lakh state government employees. So it is about 77-78, means about 80 lakh people are enrolled with this. What is the latest directive from government on pension scheme? The Department of Personnel and Personal Training, DOPT, informed Parliament on March 24 that there is no proposal to reintroduce OPS for central government civil employees under consideration of the Government of India. Union Minister Jitendra Singh said that the returns being market linked is basic design feature of NPS. However, pension being a long term product also enables investment to grow with decent returns despite short term volatility. Further, the prudential guidelines stipulated by PFRDA, the skills of professional fund managers chosen through rigorous process and choice of asset allocation across various asset classes enable subscriber accumulation to grow over long term, riding the short term volatility. He says, means just look at this graph. In short term, it may go like this and this. It may go like this. It may sometimes go up, sometimes go down, sometimes again go up, then go down. We have seen this kind of chart, right? Okay. But what happens if we see the average figure over say 10 years? It is going up only, not exactly like this. We have to see it like this. Okay, so it is going up only. So we see there are many volatilities, but still growth over long term. Okay, so this is the part what they are trying to say. What will be the number of government employees impacted when Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh revert to old pension scheme? There will be about 4 lakh employees in Rajasthan, and in Chhattisgarh over 3 lakh employees, means about 7 to 8 lakh employees will be affected. Okay, now let's move further. So there is nothing on this now. So with this we come to the end of this today's news analysis. Okay. So friends, I really hope that you like this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe our channel and share this video with your friend. Also, keep studying hard, keep following your dreams and keep tuned to our channel. Comment below for any suggestion. Till then, goodbye, good luck, keep studying hard and follow your dreams.